I'm Frezi Bouckaert, certified cicerone and owner of Purpose Brewing, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. I chose Thomas Vandelanotte as my guest. Thomas is the research and development brewer for the Martins Group. He works and is responsible for a team of brewers at the breweries and distilleries in Bourgogne de Flandre, Temmermans, and Waterloo. This podcast is a brewer to brewer conversation that goes beyond the brewhouse and into topics that matter to all of us. But first, this message. Please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media. It's All About Beer. To support journalism in the beer space, check out patreon.com/allaboutbeer. We will get into the conversation in just a minute. But first, we would like to add this message.
First Tea is a proud sponsor of the Brewer to Brewer podcast. Now is the time to look into all things Rubio's for beer. Rubio's tea brings earthy, woody, and sweet honey notes that round out red ales, saisons, and brown ales. Combine the Rubio's with vanilla, banana, and the almighty pumpkin spice for smooth autumn flavors. Email info@firsttea.com to find out more. That's FIRSDTEA.com.
I'm David Seiler from Stomp Brewing in Charleston, South Carolina, and I use Malteurop because they have great products and customer service. The new warehouse has been an amazing upgrade to Malteurop service, which I really didn't think was even possible. The short turnaround time has been great for me. Being able to pivot and change brew days is crucial to any brewery. The ability to switch things at the end of the week, knowing I'll have grain within a couple of days for placing my order, means I can be much more fluid with my brew days. It has severely decreased my anxiety as a planner, and less stress is such a great feeling. Contact Malteurop today and visit malteuropmaltingco.com.
Today's episode is sponsored by Stomp Stickers. Stomp is a proud member of the Brewers Association that produces a wide variety of printed brewery products, such as beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, and much more. Stomp's website features an easy-to-use digital design tool, low-quantity orders, fast turnaround times, and free domestic shipping. Visit stompstickers.com and use code BREWER for 15% off of your first order.
After obtaining a teacher degree in biology, geography, and technology, Thomas decided to pursue further studies to become a brewer. He started brewing in 2011 for Temmermans Brewery, the oldest active lambic brewery in the world. Now Thomas is responsible for Brewers team and heading the R&D department at Martins Group. With this podcast, I would like to focus on the style of it, conversation from brewer to brewer, beyond the brewhouse, and into topics that matter to all of us. I heard some really good, interesting podcasts from Thomas in the past about lambic, so we know he can do that already. But no, this podcast. Yes, this will be interesting between us, Thomas, because I think it's the first time we talk in English to each other. You were born in the town my dad was born. Over the years, you have been expanding your brewery team. I was laughing my butt off yesterday when I saw in one of your posts that you were looking for professional bachelor. Are you a bachelor? Are you a vrijgezel?
No, I'm not a vrijgezel or a bachelor. I'm married and I have two kids. Youngest one being Lucy, 4 years old, and the oldest being Casper of 8 years old. But in my studies, I did a bachelor's degree, and that was that teaching studies.
Biology and geography. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit more about your history to come into Bourgogne de Flandre?
Well, it's a bit of a lucky path, I think. When I started my studies, I quickly got interested into beer. I did like a zoologist course or Cicerone course in Bruges. There's a school of hotels and chefs which give off yearly most of the star chefs we know of in Belgium. And before they only did wine courses, but I think around 2008 they started doing a beer course, and when I went to go for that Cicerone course, I got in contact in our class with a few other beer lovers that just wanted to start a beer festival. And that's basically how a lot started, because those guys, well, I'm still with them in the board for the Bruges Beer Festival. And by following those courses, I got more and more interested. So I followed the brewing school in Ghent, where again I was in luck because in the same class there was a colleague, a current colleague that still works for the Martins Group, and he was looking for a new brewer because they wanted to start a brewery in Bruges, but they had one big issue, and that was that Bruges would take a couple of years before they could start brewing, but they already wanted to get me on board. Luckily enough, again, there was at Brewery Timmermans a place coming open because their brewer was almost at the age of 65, which is the years where you can stop working in Belgium. At that point, it's now a bit higher. So instead of having to wait to go for a brewer to become a brewer for Bruges, they asked if I wanted to start brewing first in Timmermans. Now, with my background, of course, I was very anxious to go and work for Timmermans because Timmermans is a lambic brewery. They still work with open coolship, brew in the traditional way. And I think all brewers or all people with a lot of love for beer, if they get the chance to start working for a lambic brewery, they'll be jumping up and quickly say yes. So I did the same thing, and that's 2011 that I could start working for the Timmermans Brewery.
Yeah, that's amazing, working for a lambic brewery. But
Yeah.
hey, let's go more about next to beyond the brew house. What are your hobbies? How do you decompress with all the work you do? I know you do a lot of work, you do a lot of commute between Brugge and Timmermans and Waterloo. But what do you do to decompress? What are your hobbies?
One of the biggest hobbies that I have is well, I'm from Belgium and cycling is very big here. So, as you know, so one of my biggest hobbies is cycling. So at least twice a week, I'm on my road bike, trying to do lots of kilometers, just to get my head empty. Or I'm trying to go up on some hills, or trying to race against the wind, whatever. If I can go and ride for 2, 3, or 4 hours, it's the best way to get all the stress out, to have the time to clear out the mind, and yeah, that's an important thing, I think.
Yeah, I love it. I love, that Peter and I love cycling too. Does
Yeah.
your wife cycle? Does your wife cycle with you?
No, she's more into running.
Okay.
So she does half a marathons,
Wow.
which I'm not capable of doing. So we are both quite well, really focused on sports, next to the job we have as our daily work. And so she can go out and run for an hour or a few hours, and it helps her also to get rid of the stress. And by
I
having
love that.
our separate hobbies, I think it's a good thing because we can both get rid of the stress and then come back with a happy mind, and start over again.
I love it. I love it. I even love, I saw that of course, we are Strava friends as well. And I love your post that you made, daily making billions of yeast cells and bacteria happy. I love that.
Well,
Um,
I must say my hobby is well linked with beer as well, because with our cycling team, um, we standard ride on Sunday mornings, but after the ride we always go to a bar and help to get rid of the beer on stock in that bar. So we do have fun afterwards as well.
I love it. On one of your previous podcasts, I heard you talk about dancing, madame and dancing ladies. Do
Yep.
you like to dance as well?
That's a good question. I think my wife will immediately say, "No, I'm I'm not the biggest dancer at all." I like to listen to music, and that's something I again pull through to our beers as well. Because in our brewery and brewage, if we do test beers, I always give it a song name. But dancing on those songs, you probably never see me do that.
Well, you just have to wiggle your hips, like you said about madame, but it's fun.
That's true. That's true. Those Madame, we still use them in Timmermans, by the way. So the brew house in Timmermans is since 2 years now a protected heritage. Not only the
Wow.
building, but also the brewing equipment. And when you have the possibility, it's always nice to see those copper discs, those perforated copper discs that take out um, the unclear wort, the turbid mash, and then bring it to our boiling kettle to do the mashing scheme.
That's awesome. I love it. I love to come watch it. Actually, I've been with a group to them. So next week we will be in Brugge again with a group, but I've been with a group to Timmermans.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to look at it.
It
So
is.
next week we will be cycling from Sluis to Brugge, and I was kind of thinking to ask you to join us for that trip, but I do know that you would. I think I have to ask your wife to run next to us instead of you biking next to us, because you go way too fast for the group.
Oh, I can do the road twice, meet you back up, and then ride again.
Yeah, that sounds good. We will have to text to each other about that.
We will.
So in the past, Peter and I took you to my parents' house. So you met my dad, who is a sculptor. You and Peter are very big artists as well, and I think a lot of brewers are artists too. Do you want to tell me more about one of your favorite artistic projects you made in beer or in anything else?
Oh, that's a good question. I think music is already an art.
Yeah, definitely.
And like I said, if we are doing test beers in Bruges, because that's our main lab to create new beers and then test them on public, we always go in search for fun or good songs to link with the beer, try to change some of the words and then have it sounding like a beer or like the ingredients of a beer. One of the funniest things we did was a beer that I want to do part of the malting process myself. So I got out and bought oats, then steeped them, dried them in our oven. We have a little kitchen downstairs, a steam heater. And I was able to let the oats malt and dry and create a very nice biscuit flavor. I then used that malt as a small proportion, of course, because I'm not an industrial maltery, in our mash to produce a strong Belgian style triple. And the song we then invented to be linked to that beer was a famous song title. It's Kilning in the Name of, because kilning is
Love it.
the malting process. And I must say the song itself is quite an art. It's often in my head, but it's fun to then try to be creative as well in producing a beer and trying to create something as well. So that's, I think, my most creative thing is to try and combine ingredients, but also create new ingredients and go in search for new things as well.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I know when one of the times you were at my parents' house, you and Peter were looking into the wood, you from Africa and Peter from South America.
Indeed, that was a crazy evening. I already had read the book of Peter, it's wood species, and I was inspired by that as well. But I was already trying to find new flavors as well, and a few, well, it must be already 7 or 8 years ago. I went to a carpenter, and I knew they had lots of different wood varieties there. He had wood species that they also use for making guitars and other instruments. And that's where I got I could get my hands on African wood species, Iroko and so on. So I took several samples. I also was able to get Amburana from that same place. And I started creating or started using them on alcohol to extract the flavors, and then infuse that into beer to see what the reaction was on those different beers. And I'm not sure how, but I think it was Peter that came by in our brewery in Bruges. I was so happy to meet Peter, and I started showing him all the beers we had in Bruges, but also our little barrel projects. We
I
started.
remember that day. Yeah, that was fun.
And just by talking, it came out that we both were very nerdy into looking for fun characters from wood in beer. So we then met up at your parents' house. And I remember me coming there with my cardboard box with all different wood species. I think I had 30 or 40 different ones with me. I'm not sure anymore how much it was. Yeah, and it was a very fun evening because Peter has such a wide knowledge on South American, but also European wood species. And just by checking the flavors and going very deep and very nerdy into that little branch of brewing, I think a good friendship started.
Yeah, I think so too. As an artist, how important is the visual aspect of your beer? I have been in the States for almost 30 years now, and I still miss that Belgian glass culture. Please give me your short sales pitch why not to use those ugly pint glasses we call shaker glasses. Why drinking out of a beautiful glass is a must.
Well, I think we can learn a lot from the wine world as well. In the wine world, they have such a pretty glasses with a thin stem and with different shapes, different forms. And tasting, it's not only your nose, it's not only your mouth, but most of what we taste is coming from our eyes. And for us Belgians, if we get a glass, like a pint glass, a lemonade glass, and the beer is filled up to there's no foam or anything. It just doesn't look appetizing. So having the correct glass, And first of all, making sure that a glass is well cleaned. It's just one of the most important things. Not often you can see on Instagram and other social media platforms people drinking a glass, but you can see the bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, meaning that the glass wasn't very clean when they poured the beer because there's CO2.
Yeah, we call it the glass isn't.
Yeah.
We call it the glass is not beer clean. Yeah,
indeed. And then you can see that the foam is way too thin, or they had a problem with products that destroy the foam, or they just poured it in a very, very bad way. But if we want a beer in Belgium, we always go for the 2 fingers of foam. So visually it's important, but also for taste, because if we don't have that foam protecting our beer, there's less aroma that will stay inside your beer. You'll have another experience by tasting the beer. So that little foam helps to protect a bit the foam, the CO2, and the feeling when drinking it. Of course, there's hundreds and thousands of different beer classes in Belgium. I'm not sure if it's needed to have every glass of every brewery in your cupboard. If not, you'll have to buy a separate room. But I always go for the beers that I don't have the glass for. I do like to use a wine glass or similar glasses from the same beer style to just see what the effect is on that beer.
definitely. I like in a bar when there's no beautiful beer glass, I always go for a wine glass. They're like, well, you're gonna have to pay more for the beer by ounce. I'm like, I don't care. I do not want to drink out of those wine glasses. I just hate them.
I follow you 200% on that one.
Awesome. We are going to take a short break for this message and then come right back for more of this conversation with Thomas. It has been already very fun so far.
The air is turning crisp, so that means it's time for fall flavor. Rubios from First Tea works in wheat beers and pale ales to give copper color and textured smoothness, combined with vanilla, lemon, or chai flavors for those warm, earthy notes of the season. Talk with the team at First Tea, and they'll help you find the best way to use Rubios and other botanicals for your next project. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com.
I'm David Seiler from Stomp Brewing in Charleston, South Carolina, and I use Malt Europe because they have great products and customer service. The new warehouse has been an amazing upgrade to Malt Europe service, which I really didn't think was even possible. The short turnaround time has been great for me. Being able to pivot and change brew days is crucial to any brewery. The ability to switch things at the end of the week, knowing I'll have grain within a couple of days for placing my order, means I can be much more fluid with my brew days. It has severely decreased my anxiety as a planner, and less stress is such a great feeling. Contact Malt Europe today and visit malteuropemaltingco.com.
This episode is also sponsored by Stomp Stickers, one of our favorite partners when it comes to printed brewery products. Stomp Stickers is a reliable resource for printed items such as beer labels and boxes, keg collars, coasters, and more. Visit stompstickers.com and use code BREWER for 15% off of your first order.
Welcome back. Hey, Thomas, can you tell us more about your playground? I know you're the R&D developer now. Do you want to tell us about the Triple, Altus, or the Love Potion? Or I heard you even make a session IPA. What do you do at your playground?
It's a very fun playground. It all started in Bruges. Our company, the Martins Company, has always been very focused on quality and on innovation. From the start, the CEO, Anthony Martin, had the idea to put more power in R&D into creating new beer styles, with also the possibility with our little bar in Bourgogne-Flandre to have people to taste our new beers and then see if we get positive reactions or lots of positive reactions to incorporate that beer into future brands. And so we started with the first test beer, which was Love Potion, as you mentioned, which was a beer of around 6%. The name was Love Potion number 6, because there's a song which is Love Potion number 9, an old song. And so from stuff, we already linked it to a song. And that first beer was because the city of Bruges also was looking for having an extra fun thing to do during Valentine's week or day. They asked companies in Bruges if they had something in mind that could be of interest, so they can publish why you should also come to Bruges for Valentine's Day. So what I did was that blonde 6% beer, but with added and I now have to think of the name mistletoe. That's what there was inside. Then violets, flowers, and chamomile flowers. And the reason behind the 3 was very simple. Violet flowers is, of course, very beautiful. It helps to give it a nice flowery nose. It makes it romantic. Mistletoe as well. It has the effect that you think of kissing under the mistletoe, which is one of the most romantic things to do, because you have love forever after if you do that. And then the chamomile flowers, that was because it also helps to prevent a headache, which can also be interesting when it's Valentine's Day, I think.
I don't know that prevents headache. I love that.
A few years later, I did a second one, Love Potion number 4. The number 6 was 6%, the 4 was 4%, so it was a session ale. But to make it more spicy, in that one I used habanero peppers and red chili peppers. So that was a fun combination as well. Then the kilning in the name of was a fun experiment. But other beers that we've done was, for instance, in the pints, linking to My Girl by Nirvana. It was a beer where I used the Christmas tree. So we always set up a large Christmas tree 5 meters high, 4 or 5 meters high in our center court in the brewery. But each year we get rid of the tree because, well, it hasn't got any roots. It's not in the soil, so it dies off after a while. And instead of throwing it away, what I did was I undid all the branches. I hollowed out the stem to make sure that I would be able to flush water through it, because a few months before, I was reading on a Nordic variety of beer, which is Sahti. And Sahti is a beer where it's a sort of a raw ale where you use the spruces of the pine tree and the branches of juniper berry shrubbery as your filter bed. You then mash in, you add that on your filter bed, and then use juniper berries as well inside the beer. It then gets filtered out in a hollowed out stem of a pine tree, and the water which comes out is then cooled down straight to fermentation temperature and fermented, but also fermented at higher temperatures. A bit in fermentation, maybe similar to the Kveik yeasts you also have in the Nordic countries in Europe.
Yeah.
And so to give it our own twist, what I did was I used that stem of that pine tree. I blocked it in our boiling tank, and then let the filtered water from the water tank run through that stem to get into the boiling tank.
Nice.
Because normally in traditional Sarti, hops weren't used, or maybe hops have been used, but there's no written proof, I think, on that. I was uncertain on infection. So to be safe, what I did was I used aged hops that we have from our Timmermans brewery, where we could have the oxidized beta acids and the alpha acids to help to get an antibacterial work on that beer without having the bitter products from the hops.
Love it.
It was some sort of a lambic Sarti style beer. So that was a very fun one as well.
You know that I don't like Brettamanizers, huh? But I love quite a few of your other beers. Do you still do the Meredith Triple and the Meredith Altis?
We do still do them.
Those have beautiful labels, by the way, beautiful artistic labels.
Thank you. It's because it's basically a beer that I had to create for a monastery in Belgium, but instead of the monks, it's ruled by the nuns, and they wanted to have a beer that could be linked to what they are mostly known for at their monastery. There's a few things. One of them is they live by the book of von Bingen. There is a famous book, but I'm forgetting the name at the moment. Physica, that's the name. And von Bingen was the lady who wrote that book, and she was specialized in writing about spices and the effects on the human life. Not only the taste, the aroma, but also the positive effects on the body and the mind. She was also the first person to ever write about the use of hops.
Yeah.
By coincidence.
Hildegard.
Yeah, Hildegard von Bingen, that's it. And by coincidence, apparently that monastery was very into that lifestyle of Hildegard von Bingen. So when I heard of what they were doing, I was very happy, because I knew I would be able to use all the wildest spices I could think of, as long as they are mentioned in the book, or if the nuns have them in their own private like spice
collection.
Where they grow the spices and have the collection. Yeah, that would be good. A second thing they're famous for is the hand-drawn letters. It's not calligraphy, but it's the golden drawn and painted letters that you see, for instance, in old Bibles and old books. And they've been studying that for ages, and they pass that information each time through to the next generation in their monastery. And that's why the label has that nice curvy M on it, and the extra drawings on it, because they wanted to have that incorporated in the label as well. Now, we're a bit in luck, because in our company, we've got the CEO, Mr. Martin, but almost his whole family works in the brewery as well. Edward, for instance, is more into distilling and marketing for distillation. Jonathan is the general, or he's commercial manager for the company as well. And then you have Stephanie, who's their oldest sister or the oldest daughter of Anthony Martin. And she's very artistic. She has her own company in designing labels, creating posters or labels for the company. Basically, that's her that does all of that. So she started working on the calligraphy on the letters and on that label, and that's all the kudos for that label has to go to her, because she created all of that. So that's the second thing that was very fun to do, and for very lovely to link with the nuns. But it hasn't stopped yet with the two beers. So you've tasted the Altus, which is a I would say a pale ale, but with a re-fermentation with Brettanomyces. So in a way, it's not really a sour. It's more like a wild pale ale, let's say, but with spices being the juniper berries and clove. While that's a very spicy one, or spiced one, I'd say. That's a traditional triple where you use coriander, curacao, a yeast which gives off a nice cloviness as well, but cloves weren't used in that beer. But what was used in, or is used in that beer, is laurel leaves. Then we use Szechuan pepper and galanga roots as well. Galanga being something similar to juniper and to ginger, sorry. And that's the second beer. But being a monastery for nuns, and being a beer where we want to strive to go further into connecting each other, what we did is last year and this year, we worked together with the local branch of Pink Boots Society.
Nice.
That is working on more rights for women in the brewing industry. I worked together with them and the nuns and the colleagues, female colleagues within the company, like Stephanie, who did the labels, to create a third beer. And the third beer we are launching now is a beer of 4%, lower in alcohol, because, well, the 6 and the 8%, they are very lovely in taste, but it's not the beer that the nuns can drink day in, day out, because they have lots of other stuff to do as well, to concentrate on. So they asked to produce a lower alcohol beer, and that's the 4% one. But it's with the pears and ginger that were used in that beer. Pears because they have a apple and pear garden as well. So we could go and use the fruits also from their monastery. And that's the newest variety that we've launched now.
I love that. Yeah, I'm also very active in Pink Boots here. I myself tried the triplets. I'm not going to try the Altus because I know it has bread and I don't do bread.
But I can try to create something where there's bread inside, and you will love it, I think.
You already tried that, Thomas. You already tried that before.
Because there's several varieties of Brettanomyces.
I know. The only one I'm drinking so far is Frezi Bouckaert, the one Peter made.
Yeah, because there's with playing a little bit with Anomalus, for instance, would be possible to create more like a fruity flavor, without the typical horse table. But I would then need to really get the right variety on hand and then start from there. So maybe it's a challenge. Maybe I can try to do that one day.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's meet up soon. We will be in Brugge next week.
Yeah.
I have, since you're a Cicerone and you went to school with those chefs, I want to give you a hard question here. So with all the beers you've made on the playground, or all the beers you were thinking of making, I want to hear a 4-course menu, a 4-course 5-star menu, beer pairing menu.
Ooh, that's a very hard question. um, it's summer right now here in Belgium. So I think, but I will immediately have a problem with my suggestion. But I think the best beer to start with is a lambic because it has a subtle acidity to it. It hasn't got a very strong bitterness to it. It's very thirst quenching. It opens up your stomach, so it makes you hungry, basically. So that's a very good thing to start with.
I will put a red Flanders instead of a lambic, but that's fine.
But instead of a lambic, for instance, we could also go for a session IPA. That would work as well as an appetizer. Or
I take a red Flanders.
Or I have another suggestion as well, and that's 2 years ago I worked together with Monteberg Winery. It's in what we call the mountains of West Flanders, but you also know that we don't have really mountains here in Belgium. We call our mountains a mountain, but it's hardly 50 meters high or 150 meters high.
The Vlaams Ardennen.
Yes, indeed. And we have some very good wineries now in Belgium. And one of them is that Monteberg. He's got quite a nice sparkling wines, whites, rosés, and reds. And 2 years ago, I went there. Again, it was something just coincidence or luck. I'm not sure. Friends of mine, the owner of Monteberg, he's the uncle of her, so a friend of mine, and they always invite us to go for a wine tasting on the Camelberg near Ypres, where all those local winemakers are, and they said, why not get in contact, see if there's a mutual interest. So I started talking with Edward from Monteberg, and immediately it was clear that we both had the same idea. We want to do something with beer and with wine together. So Mr. Martin got contacted by me, and he immediately said yes as well, because he was hoping to get something at the same time, by coincidence, also to create something in between beer and wine. So I was able to go and really taste all the different varieties of grapes that they had, and then make a selection of 4 grapes and create a beer out of that. We use 26% grapes on our total product, so that's quite a high amount. And I used Solaris, which is a Belgian variety, which has a bit elderflower taste to it. Then Zigereb, which is a German variety. It's more like a stone fruit flavor it has. And then Kerner and Pinot Gris, which have similarities. They have the greeny flavor, a bit more acid to them. Green apple, and that acidity helped to create a lighter beer as well. So the final product was basically a special wort that was produced with oats, malted barley, malted wheat, dry hopped with Nelson Sauvin to get more of those tiles into the beer that we would get out of the grapes as well, and then co-fermented with the grape juice. That's a beer which is around 6.5%. Acidity is around 3.94-ish. Has low bitterness to it. Hasn't got any bread aroma to it, but it has some wildness to it in taste. So I think if we could do that as a starter, that would be already a very good one.
Yeah, that would be a very nice appetizer.
Maybe you have to taste that one next week.
I think I tasted it last year or 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's possible, yeah. But then I still need 3 other beers to fill up the menu, I
Yeah.
think.
So, with the appetizer, would you serve some food with it or just beer?
An oyster or like a very fine ingredient would pair perfect to it. Hard to say if you would fit something else to it. I would not add too much. I would let that beer speak and then get the more complex combinations from the second point onwards.
Yeah, I agree.
But then the hard part will be next time. I think dessert will be easy. I'd go for a strong stout or an old creek as well. Always good to end up with a cherry pie or a dark chocolate with a little bit of sour cherries with it. So maybe let's have the dessert already arranged. That will be the strong stout.
You should do your stout there, but we heard about the recipe for that stout, which was really fun in one of the other podcasts as well. That's sounds like a very nice beer. I don't think I've had that one before.
It's the Lambic and Stout.
Yeah.
We did a collab with Guinness. So
yeah. Thomas, we heard about that just 2 months ago. No?
Yeah.
I think so.
And then you have the combination of sour cherries and stout in one beer. So then I don't have to choose within or stout or or an old creek.
Yeah, I love it. And what would you add a chocolate dessert or would you add something lighter?
I would go for the chocolate dessert just because I love chocolate.
Yeah, we're from Belgium, you know.
Next week, by the way, I'll be able to let you taste the beer where I used Vietnamese chocolate and Filipino chocolate.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
But it was a beer that I made for a good cause last year, but I forgot around 215 liters, and I put that in a whiskey barrel. We have a distillery in Waterloo and one in Bruges, and I used a whiskey barrel from Waterloo, added to 250 liters by coincidence, just enough to fill the barrel. It wasn't really something I forgot. It was already planned far before we launched the beer. And it now went for 6 months on that barrel and sits around 13.5% alcohol.
Wow. So yeah, that's a winter sipper.
Yeah, but that's one which you'll be able to taste next week.
Oh, is that the one you made for the winter warmer for the
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that beer was called Shock It Like It's Hot.
I love it. Yeah, it must be very hot. Looking forward to taste that one, not to drink it, but to taste that one.
And then we still need 2 beers to fill up the menu.
Yeah.
So, I'm quite a big fan of the Martin's Pale Ale, which is not the most exotic one, not the most pronounced one in taste, but it has that fresh hop to it. The malty character is always nice and stable. It has a back sweetness to it. And that one would be very good to pair with a white fish, or some light meat like chicken, turkey. So that would be a very good beer to pair into our 4 course menu.
That sounds really delicious.
Indeed. But then I still need to have one to be added. And because I have the grape ale at the start and I have the stout at the end, we already have a pale ale. So maybe we should go for an IPA, because I'm quite a big fan of IPAs as well.
Love it.
Problem with a lot of IPAs is that they don't pair very well with food. So what I would suggest is have the pale ale as the third one, and as the second one, go for a white IPA. We have one within the company as well. And it's based on our wheat beer. So 50% wheat, and the rest is malted barley. You then use in the whirlpool curacao, so orange peel and coriander. Fermentation is with a traditional Belgian yeast, which is P.O. plus, so cloviness to it as well. But we added Mosaic, Cascade, and Citra in the whirlpool and in the fermenter as a dry hop. So it has a bit of both worlds. The malty, the wheat flavor, and the spiciness from the traditional Belgian white, and then the hoppiness from an American style IPA.
Delicious.
So that would work as well, and it's only 5%, so it's one which you can have a few beers from, a few glasses from.
So you said you were gonna do that in the second one. So that was with the white chicken. I wouldn't do that with fish though. I would not do an IPA with fish.
No.
And on our Martin's Pale Ale, what was your food combination for that one?
It pairs very well with fish as well. Goes in with a light meat as well. So, or we have to go for the Belgian stew, or the Belgian.
Oh yeah, yes, that would be. I think that would be a really good combination too.
Yep.
The Martin's Pale Ale with Flanders stew.
Yep.
I love it. Love the idea. Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our hour here, but I do have one more question. I wanted to ask you, do you have a pet? And I want to ask you that because I love your story about the dogs, cats, tigers, and wolves. Do you have a pet?
I have one. Yeah. I have a cat.
A cat?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought if I would have guessed, I would have guessed a dog.
I'm a dog person. But my wife is a cat person, and when I think it's now 14, 15 years ago, friends of us had had a few cats that were born, but sadly enough, the mother got too close to a car. So you can imagine what happened.
Yeah.
And they asked us if we were interested in getting a little cat from their nest. And the problem was that the mom, so the mother cat, died fairly early on. So they were hand fed. And the friend of my wife, where we got the the cat from. She's a bit. I'm not sure how far it's famous in the US, but back in the 80s, in the 90s, there was a on television a program which is called Pipi Lankos. It's a Swedish program, I think, with a lady with red hair, and she lived with a little monkey horse with white horse with black dots, and other animals as well. And the friend of my wife, she was a bit similar, very open-minded, had a horse, a dog, other animals on our little farm. And so the cat was halfly raised by a dog instead of the mama cat. So
Okay.
one of the first tricks that we learned to our cat when she came to our house was to play fetch. And instead of playing fetch with a ball, she plays fetch with a crown cork.
I love it.
So that's our cat. She's a bit strange. And before having a cat, when I was young, living with my parents, I had other animals.
Love.
We had dogs and snakes.
Okay, love it so much. And like I said before, I also love your comparison to yeast, dog, cats, tigers, and wolves. But unfortunately, our hours is over here. I want to thank you so much for this conversation. And
Thank you, Frezi.
Thomas will be back. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Frezi, for the nice talk. It was very fun talking to you.
It was really fun. Thomas will be back on the next episode of the show as the host, having a conversation with a brewer of his choosing. That will be on the air in a couple of weeks. Make sure you tune in for that one as well. A reminder, visit allaboutbeer.com and follow us on social media. To support journalism in beer space, check out patreon.com/allaboutbeer. I'm Frezi Bouckaert of Purpose Brewing. Thank you for listening to this broadcast. And Thomas, thank you so much. It was a blast.
Thank you, Frezi, and see you next week.
Sounds good.
First Tea is your source for Rubios and a whole host of herbs and botanicals. Find your fall flavors and colors to liven up the autumn season by talking with the team at First Tea. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com.
I'm David Seiler from Stomp Brewing in Charleston, South Carolina, and I use Malt Europe because they have great products and customer service. The new warehouse has been an amazing upgrade to Malt Europe service, which I really didn't think was even possible. The short turnaround time has been great for me. Being able to pivot and change brew days is crucial to any brewery. The ability to switch things at the end of the week, knowing I'll have grain within a couple of days for placing my order, means I can be much more fluid with my brew days. It has severely decreased my anxiety as a planner, and less stress is such a great feeling. Contact Malt Europe today and visit malteuropemaltingco.com.
Today's episode was also sponsored by our friends at Stomp Stickers. Stomp is a proud member of the Brewers Association that produces a wide variety of printed brewery products, such as beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, and much more. Stomp's website features an easy-to-use design tool, low quantity orders, fast turnaround times, and free domestic shipping. Visit stompstickers.com and use code BREWER for 15% off of your first order.